Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
Is this the new normal that we have to anticipate and we have to prepare for? And if so, how do we prepare for that?
Burning out of control, the new normal, and how BC's small towns are preparing for it. Also, how the Delta variant is increasing our province's COVID cases. And
I'm so impressed with Andre.
Canadian sprinter Andre de Grasse finally strikes gold at the Olympics. How he's building on the legacy of champions before him.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Rain has brought some relief to BC's wildfire fight. Many evacuation orders have now been downgraded, and crews are making some progress on larger blazes. Well, we are only into early August, and the battle has already been long and difficult. For the third time in 5 years, more than 500,000 acres have burned. Our Justin McElroy is looking at the strain that is putting on small communities.
What happens when every July starts looking like this? What happens when small towns deal with the threat of evacuation every year?
Is this the new normal that we have to anticipate and we have to prepare for? And if so, how do we prepare for that?
In 2017, people near Ashcroft were forced to leave for a week and a half. The trailer park of Boston Flats burned down. Thousands of lives across the province disrupted all summer.
Having this again 4 years later, almost to the day, bearing in mind what happened to Lytton, which is a community we have very close connections with, a lot of people are really on edge here.
Small towns are in every region of the province, but more so than the rest of Canada, a large number of them in BC are next to forests, often in narrow valleys, at greater risk of wildfire threats as our weather warms. Years of evacuations combined with lower tourism, and the worry grows.
Oh, it's definitely very hard on a town's psyche.
Clearwater is close to Barrier, which had a devastating wildfire 20 years ago. Merlin Blackwell says that in a town with limited resources, a lot of his job is gentle persuasion.
But people in Clearwater, unfortunately, are absolutely in love with their trees. And that is the biggest threat to a town like this, and convincing people that they need to get the shrubs away from their houses, or maybe reduce the number of wonderful fir trees from 40 in their yard down to 15 is a really hard conversation to have for a lot of people.
Clearwater and other small towns are doing more than just nagging. Fuel reduction strategies, applying for climate mitigation grants, and working with local First Nations on better forest management. But there are also communities of a few thousand against global forces.
I've come to the realization there's just some things I can't control.
In Valemont, the heat dome forced the town's only grocery store to close. Its mayor says bigger questions of climate adaptation depend a lot on bigger levels of government. But there's things like asset management and inventory plans that can be done locally.
Create that plan, have a look at that red, yellow, and green status light of every one of your assets and change them up or fix them as you go.
For small towns, an anxious yellow line these days with limited resources.
I don't want to be the nag, but this part of my job is to nag people to say, hey, we really need to prepare. This is climate change. This is the future.
Justin McElroy, CBC News, Clearwater.
COVID cases are climbing again in BC. 342 new confirmed cases today, the highest daily total since mid-May. Late May, I should say. Half of the province's new cases are again in the Interior Health region. 55 people are in hospital, 23 in intensive care. Thankfully, no one has died from COVID-19 in the past 24 hours. The Delta variant of COVID is driving the fourth wave in BC, and now health authorities are changing tactics to ramp up vaccination rates. Right now, the number of cases caused by the Delta variant is doubling every 7 to 10 days in BC. Now, vaccine pop-up clinics that were once appointment only are offering walk-ins. Researchers say high vaccination rates are the only thing standing in the way of a high fourth wave.
And then today, what we decided to do is to really open up the doors and let everybody come in. We want to make sure that we're removing every single barrier that we can and encouraging people to come for their first dose or for their second dose.
The walk-in Wednesday clinics are being held across the province. So far, more than 82% of eligible adults in BC has received one shot. Around 70% have received two. If you are traveling for some reason through a Canadian airport or border crossing anytime soon, listen up. Prepare for disruptions starting on Friday. The union representing Canada's border agents says long lineups and delays will be likely if workers proceed with planned job action. That disruption could start just days before Canada begins to ease border restrictions. On August 9th, that's Monday, fully vaccinated U.S. citizens and permanent residents will then be able to come here for non-essential reasons. The union warns the dramatic impact on the border will also affect Canada's supply chain, with truckers being delayed. For its part, CBSA says it will respond quickly to any job action and notes 90% of border agents are identified as essential workers. 1 year has now passed since a massive explosion ripped through Beirut. A fire ignited volatile chemicals stored at a port there, killing hundreds of people. Since then, though, the investigation into what happened is still not finished. The CBC's Michelle Gassoub is at UBC Robson Square, where a vigil is just getting started. Michelle, what is the mood there?
Dan, people are gathering here today to mourn the 214 people who were killed as a result of the Beirut blast a year ago. Today, that includes a 3-year-old Canadian girl. But mixed in with that sadness, there is also anger, because today, on this 1-year anniversary of the blast, there still has been no accountability for what happened.
The political class that is the cause of the Beirut blast, because of the criminal negligence, they're still obstructing the investigation. We still don't know what happened, and a lot of lives were lost. A whole city was destroyed. Canadian lives were lost as well during this explosion, and we don't have answers. We still don't have answers.
Now, Global Affairs Canada has issued a statement today. They say they support the cause of the Lebanese people, and they are also calling for a full and transparent investigation into what happened. Now, the group that organized this vigil today is actually calling for the Canadian government to stop providing financial aid to the Lebanese government. They say that that money needs to go to Lebanese people who are facing a very devastating economic situation.
Mothers cannot find milk for their babies. Sick people cannot find medicines. There's a shortage of electricity and fuel. More than half of the population are currently beneath the poverty line. It is heartbreaking.
And you can just hear that frustration and that anger, but for many of the people gathered here today, many young people, there is still hope that at some point there will be accountability for what happened at the port of Beirut a year ago today. Dan?
Michelle Gassoub in downtown Vancouver. Thank you, Michelle. Mothers in addiction recovery and their children will soon have a new kind of housing option on Vancouver's downtown east side. The building will be a home for families, offer treatment programs, and include childcare under one roof. Our Isabel Regem has a preview.
It's one of the community kitchens.
This isn't any new development in Vancouver. It's the future recovery home for more than 100 mothers and their children on the downtown east side. A much-needed refuge for Katrina Fleming and her 2-year-old son.
The most exciting thing is being able to be in an abstinence-based home with my son. It's safe and it's secure, and I'll be around other women and children, and it will be like a nice little community.
The 7-story building is owned and operated by the Union Gospel Mission.
And over here, this partition can separate the space.
The main floor will be home to treatment programs and emergency supports for both residents and non-residents.
The children will be able to play outside.
And upstairs, a child care center. Candace Harper says the project will be the only one of its kind in the area.
Women will be able to stabilize and be able to journey their recovery. And if they want to continue on, they could be out here in this center for 5 years.
More than $16 million in government funding is going to help build the facility, and more than $17 million comes from UGM donors. Fleming says there's a desperate need for safe shelter space for moms and their kids. She's currently living in a harm reduction facility with her toddler.
There's drug paraphernalia, and there's people who are still struggling with their addiction, and they're in the common areas of the building.
Completion is set for November, and while there's still a lot of work to be done before families move in, Fleming already envisions a stable future here.
I'm really excited to start building a home and a life with my son.
Isabel Regam, CBC News, Vancouver.
A Vancouver speech pathologist is now selling custom-made hearing aid accessories inspired by her Filipino culture. As our John Paulo Mendoza found out, it's to raise money for people who can't afford hearing aids because she knows what it's like to live without them too.
Rizelle Gasman makes hearing aid accessories inspired by Filipino culture. She lives with hearing loss and sells the accessories to help those who need them.
I first found out that I had hearing loss when I was 20. I was in second year of university. I couldn't hear some of the sounds, and my friend was telling me, hey, maybe you should get your hearing checked. So I did, and I found out I had some hearing loss. It can be very isolating. I hear words, but sometimes they don't make sense because some of the sounds are missing.
Gasman donates sales proceeds to an organization that provides refurbished hearing aids to people who can't afford them.
I found out I needed hearing aids, but I couldn't afford them. They're quite costly, so I just waited until I could afford them after starting my career. I lived for so long without hearing aids, and I know what that can do to a person, the toll it can take. So I just wanted to give back and help others who are in a similar situation.
Her designs are inspired by her Filipino heritage.
The first one that I made is based on the ear cuff that Catriona Gray wore, Miss Philippines, during the Miss Universe pageant. And I really wanted it, but I knew it wouldn't work well with a hearing aid because the metal would clink and it would impact my hearing. So I just decided to make one myself for my hearing aid. That's pretty much what I'm inspired by, my heritage, my culture. My other designs are based on the aswang, which is a vampire-like creature in the Philippines. I'm just really inspired by things you can imagine that might not be real, but get our stories and minds going with amazing kind of narratives. It's very therapeutic for me, and it allows me to embrace my heritage and culture in a way that I never really did before growing up. I was just trying to blend in, but as I look up the designs and pictures for inspiration, I do a lot of research. I found out things that I didn't know before, and it's helped me connect with other Filipinos as well that I might not have known.
She's back. Meteorologist Johanna Wagstaffe is here with the forecast. Joe, good to see you.
Thank you, Dan. Nice to be back. I'm still in holiday mode, clearly, because a certain 2-year-old just passed me a lime green popsicle. So
Where's
way to go with it.
Come on, Wesley.
It's coming.
Yeah. Come on over. Always good to share, Wesley. These are learning moments.
These are tools, yes.
Joe, we're looking at some possible notable precipitation.
Whew, yes, those rain icons are true. The rain is looking pretty good as far as filling in. First chance Friday morning, better chance through Saturday. And yes, this is the first accumulated rainfall we might see in the forecast since June 15th. So this is certainly a big deal. I want to take us through our current temperatures because we do have to get through one more hot day across the South Coast. Today, seeing highs between 26 and 32 across the South Coast. We are above our seasonal. That's a look at the current temperatures. And it is going to be another hot one tomorrow. But look at this Alaskan low. This is one of 2 Alaskan lows that will be tracking across the province, bringing a chance of showers Thursday overnight into Friday morning for the South Coast. And look at the showers for central and northern BC. That is good rain for the wildfire situation. The second Alaska low just sort of creeping into my forecast zone just as we head into Saturday morning. So it's going to come in from the west. That one, at this point, looks like a much more substantial rain event for the South Coast and for the southern interior. So this is a look at the forecast for tomorrow. Another hot and dry one for the Okanagan, for the southeast, although we are looking at the risk of thunderstorms across a huge swath of our province. So tomorrow might actually be a bit of a touch and go day with new lightning strikes and with a fire danger rating that looks like this, still high to extreme across a huge swath of the province. So that rain can't come soon enough. And again, it is looking to come first for central and northern coastal sections through central and northern BC for tomorrow. And then that second low, good, cool rain for everyone. Now, this isn't fire-ending rain. We will need a lot more than just a weekend of that, but this could be the first time we see smoke movement in the interior, where air quality advisories have been in place for weeks and weeks now. So breaking down our forecast here in Metro Vancouver, we've got a 25 for tomorrow. Inland, that's going to be another 32-degree day. I see increasing cloud towards the back end of Thursday. Showers to kick off Friday morning. At that point, only 1 to 2 millimeters maybe. Saturday, I'm hoping for maybe 5 to 20 plus millimeter. A lot of range because we're looking at our long range at this point. Hopefully that'll come more into focus tomorrow. Some lingering showers through Sunday morning, Dan. And then hopefully we can squeeze out every last drop with that system because it turns hot and dry early next week. And I will definitely be watching that rain closely. And who knew Popsicle was also a great pointing device.
It's going to drip, Joe.
I know. I got to eat it quickly.
BC's southern resident killer whales are now officially listed as endangered in both Canada and the U.S. This time of year, they're normally in the waters near Vancouver Island. This year, though, they went missing. Greg Rasmussen tells us more about the growing mystery surrounding our province's rare orcas.
A welcome return after a mysterious absence. After an unprecedented 108-day hiatus in sightings, these endangered killer whales were finally back last week in their usual summer territory close to Vancouver Island.
So it was pretty remarkable to not have them here for so long, especially in what used to be considered the peak season to see them.
But just as quickly, they were gone.
But 12 hours later, they were heading out of the area again.
This area is considered critical salmon hunting habitat for southern resident whales. The brief sighting of about 50 animals was here. Dwindling Chinook salmon runs to the Fraser River may have triggered the whales to move.
They've gone back to we don't know where.
Or a change in whale leadership may be at work after the death of the pod's former matriarch.
With her death, her daughters who then take over, they appear to have chosen something different. We don't know exactly what that is other than they're not sticking to the old plan.
It's really encouraging that some species are showing some positive signs.
This whale researcher has been busy off northern Vancouver Island.
So I've seen a humpback whale this morning and also a pod of northern resident killer whales.
He says some West Coast whale populations appear to be recovering. Transient killer whales, which eat mainly seals and sea lions, are thriving, and humpbacks are a frequent sight. Even right whales, as well as sei whales, both hunted to near extinction along the BC coast, have been spotted this year after an almost complete absence for decades.
These are two species that were just completely absent from our coast for generations of human time. Yes, it's definitely encouraging that we're seeing them again.
Drone footage has become a critical tool for researchers studying the health of many whales. It allows them to gauge how fat or thin they are. And for the mysterious southern resident killer whales, it will eventually reveal if they're getting enough salmon in their new hunting grounds. Greg Rasmussen, CBC News, Vancouver.
The Tokyo Olympics are on, as we know, and CBC is home to those games. That does mean some changes to our programming for the rest of this week. A half-hour edition of our newscast will be on CBC television every day, Monday to Friday at 3 p.m. with Anita Bath. Then at 6 p.m. we'll stream this newscast on CBC Gem, Facebook, YouTube, and on our website, cbc.ca/BC with yours truly. Our late and weekend newscasts are taking a break throughout the games. They will be back, though, next week. Now, sprinter Andre de Grasse savoring his golden moment on the track, winning the men's 200-meter race in Tokyo today.
Grasse and Bednarik side by side. Now Knighton going hard. And inside, Noah Lyles has popped up. Here comes de Grasse, accelerating. De Grasse at the line. He's got the gold medal.
The 26-year-old from Markham, Ontario, has competed in 5 events over 2 Olympics and won a medal in every one of those events. But this is the first gold. He finished with a bronze medal in the 100-meter event earlier this week and has a chance to win more hardware as part of the Canadian teams competing in the upcoming 4x100-meter men's relay. And his victories come on top of a lot of history. Andre de Grasse is now Andre the Giant after winning Olympic gold and bronze at the Tokyo Games. And his success comes amid a long legacy of Canadian track stars. Joining us now is one of them, Valerie Jerome, Olympian, teacher, and the sister of legendary Harry Jerome. Valerie, thank you for joining us. First of all, what was going through your mind as Andre ran for gold?
Oh, it was exhilarating. I must say, I thought of my brother. I thought of the long hours of work that I know Andre has put in to achieve this remarkable success. There's history here. There's excitement here.
We asked Andre when he won Olympic bronze in the 100 meters, the fact that your brother did the exact same thing at the Tokyo Games in 1964, he said,
Harry Jerome is an inspiration to Canada, so hope that I can be, like him one day.
What is that connection like?
I'm so impressed with Andre. I have to say, I was very touched by those words. Harry had a long and at times very challenging struggle to get to that bronze medal in Tokyo with a major surgery along the way. And to see Andre getting there, with the Olympics having been postponed last year, it's wonderful.
You've talked about the fact that sport and track was an escape for you and your brother amid some of the horrific racism that you faced growing up. From then to now, what is it like to see Canadian black athletes and other Canadian athletes of color achieve such great success?
Well, it's very, very satisfying. The black population in Canada has grown since our immigration laws changed and we welcomed more black people to Canadian shores. It's great because I don't think that a lot of black athletes are enduring the kind of racism that existed in the 50s and 60s here. Don't think that I'm saying they're not facing racism, but I think that they've probably found a more comfortable space. There are more black people here that have a sense of community, and sport just offers a wonderful home, a shelter, a family.
Valerie, yours and Harry's legacy continues with various sports infrastructure and projects. We know there's a track meet, a famous one here in BC that's named after him. What other projects are you working on?
The city of West Vancouver has named their new track, which needs a lot of financial support right now, the Harry Jerome Oval. Young people don't get to the start line or the finish line at Olympic Games without infrastructure and the support of their communities.
Olympian and teacher Valerie Jerome, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so very much for having me.
You can find our news program online at cbc.ca/BC. Our next local news is on the early edition on CBC Radio 1. That starts tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock. Good night.